Welcome back to Working on the Dad Pod. Let's get to work. I'm Alex, and with me, as always, is my co-host Ethan. Ethan, how are you today?
Hey, Alex, I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm good. We're trying a tagline at the beginning, so
Yeah,
definitely had to pause there. Maybe a little awkwardness, but trying to get to work on the tagline, so to speak. But I'm doing
there you
okay.
go. Good to hear. Good to hear.
It's a lovely night. Today we will
Mhm.
be talking about potty training, right? So
Woo!
a couple weeks ago we were talking about the idea of time for yourself, and I think this topic is going to be the exact opposite,
I couldn't agree more,
because
Alex.
it can be pretty crappy at times.
Ooh, well done, well done. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot of privacy when your kid's going potty because you kind of got to be there when you're training them how to do it.
Let's be honest, there's not a lot of privacy when you're going potty either with kids.
That's true,
But
but
that's
sometimes that's for educational purposes. You want to show them how it's done.
yeah. I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
it's really yeah. But anyway, let's get into the wins and losses before we get
sure.
too deep down a rabbit hole that we don't want to be on. Um,
No.
I'm going to kick us off because I know that you were still mulling over what you wanted as your wins and losses because you had just so many to choose from. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna start off my win. So we were talking in the time for yourself episode where my wife and I do that thing where I take the kids all day on a Saturday, or sometimes she takes the kids all day on a Saturday. I did that, and I know
Hmm.
you do that every Saturday, right? But the win for me was not just taking care of my kids, or as we both have begrudgingly said, some people call it babysitting. We
Right.
call it
Right.
fathering, but fathering
Parenting,
my
whatever.
kids, parenting my kids was not so much the win in of itself. I've done that before many a
Good.
time, but the win was our plan was to go down to Lion Country Safari, which for people who don't live in the South Florida area, or maybe even people that do that aren't aware, it's um, it's an animal habitat where they've obviously got lions and they've got a lot of other safari like animals. They have a drive-through safari experience that you can go into. And we actually got annual passes for it last year when my daughter got COVID. We all got COVID, and then my daughter was the last one to get it after she got back from her vacation in Massachusetts with her grandparents. And
Hmm.
so we had like 10 days of isolation, all that stuff going stir crazy. And we're like, what can we do? Oh, we could go to Lion Country Safari because I can mask up. I'm testing negative. Walk in there, buy the annual passes, and then the safari is drive through, keep your windows up, stay in your car, and like have this experience where it's like they're at the zoo seeing animals. So we did that this weekend, or a couple weekends ago. But the problem was it was raining. And one of the big
Mm.
attractions there, like raining, thunderstorms, you went to college down here, the crazy thunderstorms that, just kind of the sky falls out. One of the big attractions is a splash pad and water park.
Mm.
And you can't do that very well when there's thunderstorms. In fact, the entire thing was shut down. And so we get there, thunderstorming, we have a little picnic before the rain really comes. We go into the walkthrough park, or we go through the drive-through, and then we go into the walkthrough portion where you can walk up and you can see some, smaller animals like parrots and porcupines, um,
Sure.
in their exhibits, sort of like a regular zoo thing. But all the rides are closed. There's like a carousel. There's a couple little like low-key theme park rides, and then of course the water park all closed. And so the win was managing to keep the kids happy, keep the kids entertained all day, even though the plans, were going to heck in a handbasket, so to speak, because my daughter was super hyped up. She absolutely loves water parks, splash pads. And I was frankly a little nervous of managing both kids at a water thing,
Hmm.
just especially with my son. My daughter, she's pretty good. My son, I was a little nervous, but getting through that was definitely my win for the week. How about you?
Very nice. So mine is a little similar in that it's something that is just really kind of small and routine. But my younger daughter, the one who's 9.5 months old, She is the early bird of the family. And as we've talked about in the past episodes, I have my wife leaves for work before the girls wake up. So I do morning drop off solo every day except Monday. And after my wife nurses the baby, sometimes she doesn't go back to sleep. So she gets plopped into bed with me, and I do my best to try to ride out the storm until my alarm. However, the last couple of days, she has not only just fallen back to sleep, but she's just gotten into this like super cuddly position with me in my bed. And it's just like, I really love my morning cuddles, and it really just gets my day going. And it's so nice. Yeah. And there's actually a big moment for me, something I haven't talked about. I don't think you and I have even talked about this offline really, but when we found out we were having a second girl, I felt really badly because I was somewhat disappointed because we wanted one of each. And I don't like saying that because ultimately all we really wanted was 2 healthy, happy babies. But there was a part of me that wanted one of each. And I'm just laying there with my daughter, and not that she like fully understands English yet because she's 9.5 months old. But we were just there, and I like just said to her, I'm going to be honest, I was disappointed when we found out we were having another girl, but you're really just perfect. I wouldn't trade you for anything. And and I meant it. And, I feel like maybe I've been lying to myself that I was fine with it after a week of knowing, but I really am fine with it. And as I should be, because I've got 2 amazing daughters. But this is also, I guess, just a PSA to any parent out there. Don't feel bad if you wanted one of each and you're not getting one of each, because that's a perfectly natural, normal feeling. In my case, wanting a boy doesn't make me sexist. It doesn't make me hate women in any sense of the word, but it's fine to want one of each. But just know that ultimately you will see the light, in that as long as you have 2 happy, healthy babies, it doesn't matter what sex or gender they are, because they're yours and you're going to love them. Yeah. So that is, I hope, a win for everyone.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we have brainstormed, not that specific instance, but as a topic for a larger conversation about parenting girls and parenting boys and gender reveals. And there's so many different avenues you can go down there. But I mean, obviously I can't speak on those feelings. Like, I can speak on the very small sliver of time in which I knew my wife was pregnant with a second and didn't know what the sex of the baby would be. Because, like you, my oldest is girl, and like you guys, we wanted one of each. But obviously got what I was looking for. Wouldn't trade my son for the world, but it's definitely one of those interesting feelings that you definitely. I'm glad you've come around. I don't think that that's a terribly unique feeling, but I think it's probably something that a lot of people have to work their way towards.
Yeah, and
they got to work.
Yeah. It's literally working on a dad.
Yeah,
said it.
Yeah, you got a loss for the week?
Yeah, I do. So this Monday was the start of summer session of our new of the girls' daycare, and my older daughter moved from the lion classroom to the tiger classroom,
of course.
I'm not. Yeah, rah. I asked the director if the next are bears and oh my. Took her a minute to laugh, but she finally got there, and I felt good. Wizard of Oz, folks. Anyway, basically, I'm not sure my oldest is adjusting quite well, and we are just kind of like unsure of the teacher, to put it mildly. And I know it's going to take time, but she was with her teacher for almost 2 years, from the pandas to the lions. And then now she's got a new tiger teacher, and, all of the parents talk, the reports coming out of the classroom from the kids aren't seem a little worse than just typical adjustments. So it's approaching an L. So I know that's kind of a cop out because it's not a full loss, but
Yeah.
it's a loss. It's a loss in progress.
Yeah.
A lop.
Well, yeah, I get that. I get
Mm-hmm.
having nervousness around a teacher. We're doing that right now where our kids, my daughter's going to some different summer camps, but one of them that she goes to a few weeks out of the summer is her daycare. My
Mm-hmm.
son, he's doing that pretty much all summer because, as I mentioned in our very first episode, there's just not a lot of options for a 1 year old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's in the same class because he's
Right.
still one. He didn't start until March. It's June. He's going to
Same
be
with
in
the
the same class
youngest.
all year. My daughter has moved from one class to another, and she's gone through a transition where this is her third classroom there, her third year at the
Mm-hmm.
school. So she's actually used to switching teachers, but we're definitely going through that where we have a new teacher with her who has a slightly different communication style.
Mm-hmm.
Totally fine so far. We're not getting any like super negative reports or anything like that that would give us any concern, but definitely just sort of figuring out the new teacher where,
Yeah.
we had rapport with the old teacher. And in fact, the assistant teacher in her last classroom had been her assistant teacher at a different daycare when she was 2. So it was just,
Oh
a
yeah.
whole different thing, level of connection. But my loss for the week is actually, um, mention it all the time, take the kids to the gym with me. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
mornings, some evenings, depending on how the schedule goes. But one thing, and I know this has happened to you, but my daughter has gotten in a phase where whatever you tell her to, do something or where she's got to be, whether that's brushing her teeth, going potty for bed, leaving childcare at the gym, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
if she doesn't want to do it, she's really gotten into a habit of saying no. Like,
Okay.
no, I'm not going to. No, you can't make me. No, I'm going to stay here. No, this, no, that, or whatever. And a lot of times I can call her a bluff or I can give her very reasonable consequences of like, okay, you get 2 stories at bedtime. If you're not going to brush your teeth and you're not going to go potty, by the time the clock hits X,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to lose a chapter or a book,
Okay.
depending on the story she's reading. Or if you don't clean up your toys, that's fine. But that timer goes off. I'm going to collect everything in a bag and I'm going to hold it for a week, and you don't get to play with those toys for a week, right? If you're not going to show me you care about them, I'm going to take them.
Right.
And she started fighting that really hard. And leaving childcare is the toughest because I don't have a lot of consequences of like, if you don't leave the gym, I'm not going to take you to school. Like,
Right.
so it got to a point where I had been rationalizing with her and rationalizing with her. And the other day, I raised my voice louder than I would like to.
Mm.
I did it
Right.
intentionally. I did
Mm-hmm.
it very intentionally and I did it briefly. But it was one of those things where I had to tell her, listen, you are not listening to me. You're not doing what you need to do. And it's something that my wife and I are trying to, get through her head a little bit of like, if you followed directions on a lot of this stuff, your life would be a lot easier. Because
Yeah.
the end result of bedtime, of leaving, of cleaning up is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you follow our directions, then we avoid the fighting. You probably get a little more playtime, snack time, whatever mixed in there without us going, hey, you need to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. You need to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, kind of thing. And so the loss was definitely raising my voice
That.
louder than I would like to. And I apologized for it in a way of, I'm sorry, I didn't want to have to do this. Let's
Mhm.
not do this again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think most of my L's as a dad, revolving around my older daughter, also have to do with raising the voice because, like you said, sometimes it can be done intentionally because you know that it hits in a way, but
Mhm.
at the same time, you just hate making them feel so bad. But you know,
Yeah.
I've had to do it a little more often than normal lately because she's just so much stronger and bigger than the 9.5-month-old
Yeah,
that, if I don't say something loud enough to like kind of shock and unfortunately scare her, the little one
sure.
could get hurt. And,
Right.
but yeah, it's
Yeah.
just tough. It's tough.
It's
So I
it's
feel you.
tough because, to give a very brief example so we can get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, because I know this is running a little bit long, but we were having the exact same conversation as the day before. But the day before, I was talking to her in this voice. And I was
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, when it's time to leave, it's time to leave. I get
Mm-hmm.
that you were watching a movie on the TV in the child care area. I get that. It was Aladdin 2, Return of Jafar. I was like, we have this at home. This is something that could be watched at a different time. Like, this is not make or break.
And it's crap.
Sure. She's 4. I'm
I
not
know.
here to judge her taste. A lot of it's crap. But after I say this to her, she's like nodding along, sort of talking to me. And the first words out of her mouth is, wow, that's a funny looking truck, because we're sitting in the parking lot and she can see the street out there and she sees a truck going by. And I'm like, you're not listening to, you're not grasping the concept here. You're not paying
Mm-hmm.
attention. You're looking for this to be over. And I get
Mm-hmm.
that sentiment, but at the same time, I want this to be over too, but I want you to get the point. Hey dads, are you tired of the same evening routine? Dinner, maybe some playtime with toys that get left everywhere, brushing teeth, and then bed? Next time, pull out a Wongo puzzle and do something different that you and the kids will enjoy together. Wongo is the perfect balance of a good challenge without being so hard that you stop talking to each other and leave your family forever. Trust me, once you try Wongo, you'll never go back to a boring old jigsaw puzzle. They're 100% wooden puzzles. They'll last forever. Each piece is hand drawn, so no two pieces are the same, and you'll discover some fun whimsy pieces as you work through it. They come in a custom wooden box, which is perfect for storage and gifting. With stunning designs and unique shapes, Wongo puzzles are a cut above the rest. I'm partial to the animal designs like the sea tortoise and the elephant because my kids get excited about them even more. It was great to pull out a puzzle and be done in a night and not have it on the table for a week. Forget about it. Maybe get fruit pieces all over it or something like that. So what are you waiting for? Go to wongopuzzles.com, pick your puzzle today, and be sure to use the promo code WOTDP to get 10% off your order. This is the most fun you've had with a puzzle guaranteed, or your money back. Go to WONGO puzzles.com and use the code WOTDP to get 10% off your order and get puzzling right now. But
Speaking of crap,
speaking of crap,
we both wanted to say it. Sorry.
yeah, no, hey,
Great minds.
speaking of crap and getting pissed off, let's talk potty training.
Let's do it.
So potty training is, it's something that everybody has to go through. This is one of those things where, kind of like our childcare episode. This is one of those rites of passage as a parent, no matter how you choose to do it. And we both have some different methods. We each have, I would say, I think it's a fair assessment to say between the two of us, we have 1.5 potty trained kids, which I'll let you get into
Sure.
a little bit. But yeah, it's something that's going to be coming up for me probably sooner rather than later with our son, because my daughter, we actually potty trained pretty early. Do you want to lead off with what you guys did, or do you want me to?
Yeah.
Do you want me to take it?
So I should probably go first, only because I believe mine is not mine, but the method we chose is the more conventional method. And
the method you created, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. The method I created. So we opted with our eldest daughter, to do the 3-day method. And for those of you who have never heard of the 3-day method, it's day 1. They are essentially just naked all day, running around, and every 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 15 to 20, you ask them to sit on the potty. And essentially you're just trying to get them used to going on the potty. Day 2, they're essentially wearing a shirt, and if I remember correctly, they've just got pants on. So no underwear, but a shirt and I guess you can wear a shirt that first day. What really matters is the pants or the second day. So then you
Right,
get them
right.
used to pulling the
You
pants
create
down,
some
sitting on the
small
butt.
barrier, but you still
Right.
have the quick release.
Right. And you, it's same thing, like every 10 to 20 minutes. And then, day 3 is full on underwear, underwear, pants. And, you're still doing 10 to 20 minutes, but by then they're kind of like telling you, oh, I need to potty is essentially how it works.
They're understanding
You're also not supposed to let them wear a diaper except when they're sleeping, because night potty training and day potty training are entirely separate things. So for the purposes of this conversation, which we should have set up front, we're talking about day potty training, or at least I am.
Yeah, and I mean, we can get into night potty training, but yes, like
we were
the
talking
one
about
thing
day
that we
potty
have
training.
in common is that these were not at the same time for either of our kids. My daughter, your oldest, no, night potty training and day potty training are different. But anyway, continue.
Right. So where my wife and I made the crucial failure is that she did not go poop, and she was holding in her poop to the point where she got a tummy ache. So all the books say, let them go through it. I'm not saying any parent is cruel or bad if they do let them go through the pain, but we honestly just couldn't do it. And so we caved and we said, you can have a diaper. And it's been a year and a half, and she will only pee in the potty, poop in the diaper. And Alex joked that we have 1.5 potty training. I'm saying like we're 1.99 kids potty training between the two of us, because she will say, hey daddy, hey mommy, I have to go, I have to poop, please put me in a diaper. And she will go to her poop corner, which she's basically established ever since she could walk. She likes picking a spot in specific rooms and pooping there in our living room. She likes pooping to the right of the couch in a little nook and playing on one of the side tables in her room. It used to be a corner. Back in preschool, it used to be the corner of the playground. But essentially, she has established a poop corner. I've explained to her that all of our bathrooms there have corners next to the potties. Doesn't matter to her. But she poops in a diaper, pees in the potty, and she's 3.5 now, and we started potty training when she was 2. And before you get into it, Alex, a couple months ago, I had this idea that we would tell her that we didn't want to buy any more size 5 diapers. We're like, okay, like we're sick of this. So we told her that the diapers we had are not poop diapers. They're only sleep diapers. And what happened? She held in her poop for 2.5 days until she pooped her pants at preschool, which she was running to the potty when this happened, but she pooped her pants, and we feel terrible. That's embarrassing. We felt awful during the tummy ache she was having again, and so we're just kind of stuck. We don't really know what to do. Apparently, this is more common than we originally thought. So if you're listening out there and your kid only likes to number 1 in the potty and 2 in the diaper, you're not alone. You're very not alone based on the research. But it is extremely frustrating to honestly have to keep buying size 5 diapers, and especially when we've got a 9.5-month-old who can only use diapers, and we just want to move past this.
I mean,
also we just we don't want to have to stop everything we're doing to put a diaper on her just to poop. And, the weird thing is she's pretty regular now where she'll only poop at home. Like at no point does she tell her teachers she has to poop anymore. She just poops at night at home within a half hour of bedtime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least she's regular on that. There are some silver linings there, but I think it will become, from what I did some research when you first told me this was the issue. I also found that it was incredibly common. So you were absolutely right that this is not something new. And you mentioned the idea of where you went wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that it's always within our control. And that's sort of one of the more
Sure.
frustrating things sometimes with this. But yeah, it's different than what we did in a lot of ways, but there are some similarities. So for us, our daughter is completely potty trained. She's 4.5 years old. She is night trained,
Mm.
everything. She doesn't wear pull-ups, diapers, anything. I think there are some kids in her class that do, based on what she said. Now, granted, she has some kids just because she was born in October. She has some kids they're like 10 months younger than her that qualify
Mm-hmm.
for the same class as her. So there can be some big age gaps. That there are kids just a few months older than your daughter in my daughter's
Mm.
class, kind of thing.
Right.
But what we did is we did something called elimination communication. And this was something that, I'll be perfectly honest, was my wife's idea. We did this a lot more with our daughter, and it's a lot less common than what you were talking about. But what elimination communication is, it stems from this idea, and it actually makes a lot of sense, but it stems from this idea that human beings, like all animals, not that all animals wear pants, but human beings don't are not born with the innate desire to crap their pants.
Mm-hmm.
They are
Mm-hmm.
born
That tracks.
wanting to go and not being in their own waste matter.
Which is
And
kind of
so
funny considering we're all sitting in the gross amniotic fluid at some point, you know?
sure, but all
Sorry,
animals,
go ahead.
all
Yes.
mammals do that.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it stems from that idea. And so what this sort of fights, the idea of elimination communication fights, is the fact that we train kids to go in their diapers, and then we train them to get out of the diapers. In
Right.
what it's saying is, let's skip the diapering training, keep it as a safeguard. We didn't have our daughter go diaper free, but what we did is we had what's called a little top hat potty, and it's about yay big. Here, I'll use this thing of disinfectant wipes to show you that it's
Mm-hmm.
about this size, a little bit shorter, and it has like a little cotton ring around it but it's made out of plastic. So you can take the cotton ring off. It's made for cushion. You hold their little legs up and you hold them on there. I'm talking, few weeks old, and you make like poo poo sounds and pee pee sound, that kind of stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very degrading.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the idea is you teach them to get comfortable with the potty. And we did this a lot with my daughter. I have plenty of videos of her doing that, moving to a plastic floor potty, moving to a plastic seat reducer. And then she was potty trained, both poop and pee, around 18 months.
That's insane. Just like I already knew this, but every time you say it, like it's just like
Now,
insane to know.
here are a couple caveats. One,
Yeah.
I don't think it's like we did part-time elimination communication because she was in daycare from the time she was 7 months old. And it is
Mm-hmm.
impossible unless I don't know what you would have to do to get a daycare to do it. We
Sure.
weren't going to ask. We put her in
Mm-hmm.
diapers. But another thing we did with her, especially, is she was in cloth diapers. Reusable, we wash them, bleach them plenty, all that kind of stuff. But what they do is they're not as absorbent as, say, your Pampers or your Huggies or any of the disposable diapers, and so it makes them just a little bit more uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they pee in it and gets wet, it can still hold plenty, but they're not. It's one of those where my son is in disposables a lot now,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll pull that thing out. Yeah, it's heavy, it's wet, but he's not. He's not that
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable unless he poops in it.
Right.
So we did that with my daughter. Now, the one thing I will say, lining up with that 18-month period, is we did a lot of what you were talking about, the 3-day method, in a
Mm-hmm.
week or two. And we had the advantage at that point of this was April of 2020. And in case that's not ringing any bells for anybody, the entire world was shut down.
Right.
My mother-in-law, who lives 20 minutes away, couldn't go anywhere or do anything. And she said that she would take my daughter 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. And she was willing to help take on this potty training so she could reinforce, instead of sending her to daycare and having to deal with daycare and all that stuff or fit it into a weekend like you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
She had the seat reducer. She had the floor potty. She had everything she needed. She has a lot of hardwood floors, not carpets. And so she was able to do the pants off thing. But the key was really, my daughter was fairly early on the talking. And so she was able to communicate effectively. I need to pee. I need to poop. And that was the biggest hurdle, right? The elimination communication just reduces the number of diaper changes. It helps with the association, but I don't think it was this magical step of like, she was always using the potty, because she used her diapers to poop and pee at daycare plenty before she got potty trained.
Can I interject with just one question? Because one thing that I've never been sure about is in elimination communication, is it similar in the first couple days of the 3-day method where you are initiating it's time to potty, or are you like just basically staring at your kid waiting for like visual cues that they need to potty? It's like, how do you know it's time?
It's a little bit of both, right? So with our daughter, and part of elimination communication is when they're too young to say it, you look at the cues, you think about schedule. So the schedule that you're talking about with your daughter, going poop at the same time every night, we look for those cues, like, okay, kids tend to like pause what they're doing, stop moving. Nobody really walks and pees at the same time. Nobody crawls and pees at the same time. So we watch for those, and then we just reinforce it, right? We take the diaper off, put it on the potty, and we say, you want pee-pee on the potty. And that kind of tone. It's not always like celebratory. That way you're not creating a negative connotation if they go in the diaper. But I would encourage everybody to look up. It's been over 3 years at this point since we've done it, since our daughter was potty trained. So it's not the freshest in my head. And there's a lot of ways to go about it. And there's a lot of variables within there. But what I would say, and I think this is something that I hear not just from you, because you started your daughter when she was 2, but I've heard from quite a few people, is when you wait until the kid is like 3 or so, it can absolutely become more difficult. As you've talked about, as I've talked about, they get a lot of personality, they get a lot of sass, they get the ability to fight back, verbally. And so they can become more defiant. And one of the things that we were doing research on, and why we will probably, my son is almost 16 months old, we'll probably in the next like 3 to 4 months look to potty train him, or at least give it a try, is because I have heard lots of stories of people waiting too long to try and potty train because they didn't think their kid was ready. And then the kid fights back because they're more averse to change and they understand change. Versus like earlier, I have rarely, if ever, heard people try to potty train a kid 18 to 24 months and have like a bad experience with it.
Yeah, well, so as your kid gets older, they get more into their routine. The threes, from what I've heard, so when you think about it, 3s, 4s, and 5s are actually very similar to 13, 14, and 15 in the kind of independence in which they're seeking. So if you do it before 3, you might be in terrible 2s. We skipped terrible 2s and just got 3-nagers, but that's another story. But they're not so much in command of their routine. We also, when she was just turned 2, we had also just started trying for our second kid. And in our mind, we were like, it'd be really great if we could only have one kid in diapers at a time. Obviously, we're 99% of the way there, because she'll tell us she needs to poop, and then we'll put her in a diaper after we ask her if she wants to try the potty, and she says no tomorrow, which she says every day. And then, but you're absolutely right. We are not experts. We are just 2 dads that are sharing our experiences. And so we're not going to say, if you're waiting till 3, you're wrong. But all of the research out there just says that the closer they are to 3, the more averse to change they are. So
Right.
just
And
keep that in
I,
mind.
I wasn't even citing research, just more
Right.
anecdotes. Right. And so
Sure.
I want to
Sure.
make that clear that I'm not saying that it's wrong to
Absolutely
wait
not.
until 3 years old. I'm not saying that it's
Mhm.
right to do it earlier. I'm just saying
Mhm.
I have never heard people
Right.
with as many hurdles when they do it a little bit
Mhm.
younger. But with our method,
Mhm.
with the elimination communication method, and you sort of touched on this with having two kids, right?
Mhm.
We're not really doing it with our son. We want to
Mhm.
potty train him sooner rather than later, before he hits two. But we are not really doing elimination communication with him because it's we have found for us that it's a lot harder to do when we've got another kid in the
Mhm.
mix and we're
Yeah.
still parenting her and he's doing his thing and he might
Oh,
crawl
she's not just
off
roaming around on her
play.
own.
Yeah, I mean, and he might, he might crap his pants and all that stuff. And so there is very little, we've tried in fits and spurts of, hey man, poo poo goes on the potty, and like
Right.
we've had some definite times where he has pooped on the floor potty, and
Mhm.
those kinds of things. But he is not. We are not as diligent or consistent with him. And the other thing is, aside from the times that he's at home, he's not in cloth diapers. We
Right.
started sending disposables to daycare with him where we would send cloth diapers with our daughter. And it was just part of that's just a convenience thing. With cloth diapers,
Yeah.
I love them. As far as saving the earth, and all I know that all I've got to do is a wash cycle and a dry cycle. I'm going to have diapers ready. There's no midnight runs out to get
Mhm.
diapers and all that stuff. But it also means that I've got to carry home a bag of dirty diapers every day from daycare. And I've got to make
Mhm.
sure that I've got enough washed and that their inventory is stacked versus at home. I look at the stack of diapers and I say, hey, there's only three left. Three left will buy me more than enough time to do a
Mhm.
cycle of diapers.
Right.
And then the other thing is he sleeps in, my daughter slept in the cloth diapers. He sleeps in the disposables because that way he does a better job of sleeping through the night. Because
Well, they
that if they get really soaked, he's not feeling it.
yeah.
So it'll
So
be interesting. I think my son is going to be much more on a similar trajectory to your daughter. Hopefully, we don't run into the same issue with the pooping in the diaper. But that is
yeah.
something that he does that my daughter didn't do as much at this age. She was only a couple months away from being fully potty
Mhm.
trained. And like I said, I have plenty of videos of her sitting on the potty demanding that my wife sing more row, row, row your boat while she's
Yeah.
sitting on the potty to do her business. So it's
Yeah.
definitely even different in our house with the second kid.
What? Yeah, and what we were, what we didn't anticipate was how long this whole "I will only poop in diapers" thing would go on. Because in an ideal world, she'd be pooping on the potty, and then her little sister would see her pooping on the potty and want to do it too. Like how anecdotally and research wise, second kids tend to do things,
Sure.
on the sooner end because they're seeing their like similar sized peer doing stuff.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and
I'm hopeful. I'm
yeah,
hopeful, man.
yeah, right. And we
Like
we
we have
we
just
touched
gotten my diaper. We've just gotten my daughter to like start wiping her own butt consistently.
nice.
Like
I wear my
I am so, yeah, right, Big Daddy.
own
And
yeah.
like I am so close. I can feel it, Ethan.
Mhm.
I'm so close to like not dealing with other people's fecal matter. And I'm
You're
just I
the
I want
dream.
to get there. I can see the finish line.
So I want to circle back to two things. The first I want to circle back on is privacy and how sometimes I will literally poop in front of my 3.5-year-old to be like, look, it is so fun to poop on the potty. You hear the plop.
Yeah.
My tushy doesn't itch. Look, I'm wiping my own butt. It is so much fun. And second, going back to how I was feeling like when I found out I was going to have a second daughter, and I was sad to not have a boy. I've got another 2.5+ years of wiping poop out of vaginas, and
Mm.
I will say that is still a bummer. I was hoping to be done with that. Done wiping poop out of vaginas, man.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, imagine if you had our genitalia construction, but you had the mentality of a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and could just point it wherever you wanted and do whatever you wanted. Like, I'm also very fearful that the trade-off of not having to do that a second time is absolute urination chaos.
Can I help you out with that? They still sell them because my mom sent them to me as a joke for my first Father's Day, but they have flushable pee-pee targets for boys where it's literally a bullseye, usually over an animal, and I've got some in my bathroom. I am 35, and every once in a while, I just want to have some fun. And I'll put one in the potty, and I will do some target practice.
I have actually heard if you're looking to not, buy yet another thing, and I haven't looked at these things. I know a lot of things that say they're flushable actually aren't flushable. Like flushable wipes are actually terrible for your plumbing. But Cheerios,
these are like big.
Cheerios.
Ooh,
in fact, try to get it in the Cheerio. Can do that. Really? I'm not worried so much about him aiming at the toilet and getting in the toilet. I'm more like, if he wants to be an agent of chaos. I don't have the inclination that that's my son, but also like,
you never know. Boys will be boys, right? So, that's what they said. That's what they said about us.
I wanted to ask you before we wrap up here, because we are going a little bit longer on this one, but before we wrap up, you have done more research on this because it is a problem that you're dealing with, but I have a hunch that with your daughter pooping in the diaper, that the solve is just time, right?
Yeah.
It's just waiting until you get to a point in where maybe peer pressure takes over or just they grow out of it. What is the solve for the people that are going through it that maybe maybe think they're on an island and this is the first time they're hearing that everybody else goes through this or a lot of other people go through this?
So there are, yes, it is ultimately time that you just have to wait out because eventually they're just going to have to poop because you'll either get to the point where diapers aren't big enough and there's no choice. There's the peer pressure that you talked about where, I have a friend whose son, he said, was the same way. And it wasn't until he had a friend come over to his house and his friend had to poop that he got like defensive over his turf and was like, why is he pooping in my potty? And then he ended up pooping. So there's
you don't do it.
Possessiveness. I also have a friend who's got twin girls. One poops in the potty, one doesn't. And she actually uses a method that I will never pursue. But there is essentially kind of like I don't want to call it like shock therapy, but like a belt that vibrates when you poop and like it's supposed to make them like not want to do it. I don't know I didn't research it at all, but it was definitely not mine and my wife's cup of tea. So they do have like devices. Yeah. Okay. And then there's one other method that actually was told to us as by our pediatrician that I'm actually fine trying, but my wife is not fully there yet, is you essentially just give the kid Miralax or any kind of not laxative, but
stool softener.
Softener, where it's no longer solid, but it comes out faster. And you basically just like have them sit on the potty and wait for it to kick in, and then it falls in and they're like, oh, and I've honestly been fine to like try that because, if the doctor says it's fine and, I had an ulcer a little over 10 years ago. So I take stool softeners regularly because, it just makes things easier. So like, I know it's fine for you. So those are like essentially
really getting to the nitty gritty of all of our bathroom preferences here.
So, but ultimately, know that whatever potty training issues you're going through, you're not alone because
I would say seek resources, but a lot of it's time. I mean, as much as I just said, try to consider it earlier. rather than
Yeah.
later. At the same time, any speed bumps with later, they're speed bumps, they're roadblocks, they're temporary.
And if you can, if you
Kids
can
grow.
stomach,
Yeah.
if you can stomach the kid's tummy ache, more power to you. But it might save you a year and a half of annoyance. So
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that is all we've got for this episode of Working on the Dad Pod. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you next time.
bye, everybody.
Thanks for working on the Dad Pod with us. Any resources that we mentioned during the show will be in the show notes. If you have questions, thoughts, or just want to talk with us, the best place is in the comments on YouTube. We're on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Working on the Dad Pod, and on Twitter at Working on Dad Pod. Following and subscribing is always appreciated. Please rate and review us. That helps get the show to new people. And if you know a dad who would enjoy our show, sharing with them is a huge help to them and us. Have a great week.